Hi, Gene Burnett from GeneBurnett.com. Hey, I thought I'd share with you some real basic body mechanics. I hesitate to call them Tai Chi body mechanics because I think they apply to all kinds of movement. I don't think Tai Chi is a special kind of movement. I just think it's a refined and studied kind of movement. But if you believe it is a special kind of movement and maybe view this stuff in esoteric terms, it might still be valuable to you to pay attention to these basic mechanical fundamentals, because the body's a body and you have to respect the way it works, I think. So personally, I think if you're trying to do anything effectively, efficiently, and without injury, that's a key one. You have to respect how the body works, and you have to respect how the physical world works. And you will be led to Tai Chi principles of balance and harmonizing polar opposites of yin and yang, and all other polar opposites too, because that's the way nature is. That's the way of the physical world. These things are embedded in everything. So if you want to do something effectively and efficiently without injury in this world, you're going to encounter some Tai Chi principles of balance and dynamic conversation between the firm and the soft. That's my opinion. But you don't have to agree with me to get value from this. As I said, you can completely disagree with that, and I think you might still get value from what I'm about to say. So, first of all, the feet. Consider your feet like roots. They're like the root of the movement. Everybody knows this who does Tai Chi. The movements are rooted in the feet. And what that means is that your foot has a firm and even contact with the ground. It feels like a hand to me. My palms feel like, the bottoms of my feet, the soles of my feet feel like palms when I'm studying this. So it's like the feet are the root. Imagine if you were standing in a room full of greased ball bearings. It wouldn't matter if you were Bruce Lee. You'd be slipping and sliding and falling on your butt constantly. So you have to have a root. So think of the feet as roots. Now think of your legs as pistons. They basically drive force through straightening and sinking. This is the basic action of the legs. They can transfer your weight side to side, so the pistons can push your weight side to side like this, or the pistons can push you up and down like this, up and down, right? Or the pistons can push you forward and back like this, right? Or some combination of the three. But that's basically what they do. They're raw. They're not directors or refined applicators. They're pistons. They're raw pistons. So this is oversimplified, but if you see it that way, it's a model that can help. So you've got these pistons here driving the weight up and down, side to side, or front to back. Always keep your knees over your toes as much as you can. You don't want to twist them in like this ever, and you don't want to twist them out like that. You want them in here and hopefully not past the toe. It's a good, safe rule. Some elite movers can take their knees out a little bit further, and some people are born a little differently, but basically keep your knee over your toe. Not out over your toe, but directly over your toes. Okay, so you've got the root and you've got these pistons. Now, think of the torso as kind of a barrel, right? And the barrel is sitting on top of these pistons. So if you feel like doing this with me, bend your knees a little bit, sit into your hips, tuck your hips a little bit, sit into your legs, and just feel the weight of your torso like a barrel that's sitting on these two pistons, right? So now the pistons can move the barrel from side to side. The pistons can move the barrel down and up, right? And the pistons can move the barrel forward and back, or some combination of the three. Now, the arms, think of the arms, I hesitate to say ropes because ropes are too floppy. You want to think of them, or I think of them as kind of like snakes, like floating snakes, and they're attached to the barrel. So the foot is the root. The legs move the barrel from side to side, let's say, or up and down. They move the barrel, and then the barrel can add rotation in either direction, or it can not rotate. But when it rotates, the arms, the snakes, just echo that movement. So the momentum from here is what moves the upper body, the arms, the shoulders, elbows, and wrists. So the way we say it in Tai Chi is the movements are rooted in the feet, powered by the legs, directed by the waist, and expressed by the arms and hands. So, but this is true in throwing a ball. This is true in hitting a ball. This is true of all racket sports. This is true of punching. This is true of any physical movement. Your feet are going to be your root. The power should come from at least a connection through your legs, if not the outright straightening and bending of your legs. The torso adds rotation or doesn't, and the arms express that through the connection to the torso, to the core. So if we want to take a typical Tai Chi movement and examine it through this kind of very basic but simplified but valuable model, is like, say we're holding the ball, but I'm not going to really hold the ball. I'm just going to put my hands on my body. In a position like this, I'm going to sink. So I'm taking the barrel and I'm setting it down into my this leg right here. Now I'm going to lift the barrel as I push it forward. Just going to lift it as I push it forward, and then I'm going to add rotation, and then I'm going to sink the barrel. So I'm back in my front stance there. So I'm doing it the other way. I'm going to sink the barrel, take a step. Now I'm going to lift the barrel, rotate it, and set it down. It's really, really basic, but it's at the heart of so many movements. Like if you're going to throw a ball, like you sink the barrel, you lift the barrel a little bit, and then you sink again as you drop, otherwise you're going to fall over. So you coil down and then you lift forward and throw. To give you one example, there's a million of them. So basically we study this. I study where is the root in this movement. What are the pistons doing? Are they lifting up and down? Are they shifting side to side, front to back, or both? Which direction and when is the barrel turning? Because that's really important. If I settle here like this and start to turn the barrel immediately, I'm going to twist my knee, because the barrel turns when the momentum is strong enough to allow it to turn easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push. In this case, I'm pushing forward and up. It's really helpful to push slightly up. If your style won't let you go up and down, if you have to stay on one level, try having someone put their hand on your head sometime, crouch down a little bit, and see how far you can throw a ball without leaving their hand. Keep your head right against their head and see how far you can throw a ball without doing that little up and down. It's not much, but that's how the legs issue, is they rise and fall. So give yourself maybe some slack to do that. So if I turn the minute I push, then I'm going to lose my knee alignment. If I turn when the push is done, it's a little bit better because I haven't twisted my knee, but there's no momentum. So this turn comes from my waist and abdomen and nothing else. It's that. So it's kind of a local movement. I want it more integrated. So I'm going to shift my weight, and before the push is done, I'm past the 50-50 line. Before it's done, I'm going to add the turn, and then I'm going to settle. Right? So you want to wait till there's enough momentum that this rotation adds to it, rather than starting from scratch and adding its own momentum from zero. I want to wait until the momentum gets to the waist, and that's the point where I turn and follow through. So if I'm facing forward, I don't want to turn immediately. There goes the knee. I don't want to turn at the very end, because now I have to start this from scratch. I want to have enough momentum going that there's some momentum there, and I add to that momentum with the turn. So the rotation of the core adds to the power from the legs. It doesn't generate the power. It doesn't start from scratch. It adds. And the arms, now we're going to add to that. So the way to look at this mechanics is that the piston transfers the weight. There's a sweet spot along that path, like a relay race, where it hands off to the waist, and then the waist causes the arms to move, and then you settle into your final position. So there's a ripple of power that goes through the body, from the legs, out through the hands, and then you collect so that you don't fall over. Your own momentum doesn't mess you up. So let's look at some Tai Chi movements. Let's say brush knee and push. Lift the barrel, push it forward, turn, and settle. Let's say parting horse's mane. Lift the barrel, push it forward, turn, and settle. Fair Lady Work shuttles. Again, lift the barrel, turn a bit, and settle. Single hand ward off. Push, lift, settle. Single whip. Forward, lifting, set it down. The barrel's going up, turn, settle. Now it's not a huge lift, but you're driving up from the ground. I'm not pushing just horizontal back and forth like this. I'm using my legs to launch upwards slightly, turn, and then settle. If it's against your style's rules, then you might want to play with it, just see if there's some value for you in it. For me, there's just tremendous value in this. So, and most importantly now, a punch. I'm going to put, boom, like that, right? Lift, turn, settle. Lift, turn, settle. Really basic. It's true to so many movements. Daily life, sports, martial arts, all kinds of stuff. So one little study, it's basic, but the study is, where's the root in this movement I'm about to do? What are the pistons doing? Can I feel them? Like, kind of like snakes condensing. And then, when does the turn happen? What is the barrel doing? Does it do nothing? Does it just sit in the middle like a movement like this where I'm not rotating side to side? Or is it going to be a movement where I'm rotating? When does that rotation happen? And then the arms are going to be snakes expressing that movement. Really, really basic. And I believe that the health benefits, the real benefits of Tai Chi or any movement discipline are in the very, very basics. The very basic stuff. And this is about as basic as it gets when you look at movements, right? Power, rotation, expression. Now, if you want to go further, because either you like this stuff or you just want to, take it to another level, I would say, for me anyway, the next level is to think about feeling. Like, how do you feel while you're doing this? What does this feel like to shift the weight, turn the waist, and allow the hand to express that movement? How does it feel to do this? Like, just study the feeling of it yourself, because if there's something out of alignment with that chain, that kinetic chain, that ripple of power from the foot to the hand, you should be able to feel it if you're sensitive enough and keep listening. You might feel like your elbow's out a little bit, and that's a tension there. So instead, if I keep that elbow relaxed, that power just goes out effortlessly through there. So you can use your own feeling to show you what you need to work on or what you can change within the movement to make that kinetic chain, that ripple of power that you've been studying in kind of a mechanical lift the barrel, turn the barrel, set the barrel down way. You can make it more refined and smooth it out. So this level is about feeling and using feeling to help correct your movements, to show you what to work on. It's also about smoothing the movements out, each segment of the movement. And another really important thing is it's about feeling the transitions between the different links in the power chain and making them more like dimmer switchy than on-off. So in the ways I've been describing it so far, I've been lifting the barrel, turning the barrel, setting it down. But if I study the three links, the legs, the core, the arms, if I study those and try to make the transition as smooth as I can, it's fun, and it's just another level of refinement in the movement. So I'm going to sink the barrel, I'm going to lift the barrel, but I'm feeling that connection and trying to make the transition as smooth as possible. So there's as little in the way of the kinetic chain, delivery of movement as possible. All this goes the other direction too. If you're neutralizing something or dealing with something coming at you, there's still a barrel involved, and there's still pistons involved, and a root involved, and there's some snakes involved. So you can study that. I'm looking more at the issuing part of the movement, since that's a little easier to show to show visibly. So that's the next level for me, is to how does it feel, to smooth it out, and to pay attention to the transitions and put them on a relay race, kind of a dimmer thing, where each part hands off to the other as smoothly and efficiently as possible. The next level of working on these mechanics would be looking at intent. What is the intent of the movement? Here it's helpful to do a couple things. One is to kind of suspend your joints a little bit, so your nervous system is free. Your sensory nerves bringing information to your brain, and your motor nerves that are going to control which muscles tense up and when. The balance between the yin and yang of nerves is kind of open. So as a feeling sense of the body opens up, it's not just structure and it's not just feeling and relaxation. It's kind of in between the two. It's also nice to connect to the breath, so that, like, say your issuing movement would be like an exhaling breath, and your inhaling breath would be more of a coiling or a gathering kind of movement. So you connect the movements to your breath. And here it's also helpful to know the applications of the movement. It's really helpful to know what the movement's for. Like, what are you trying to do mechanically, martially in this movement? I'm not a person who's trying to make these techniques work for me martially in combat. To me, these are training games to teach me about the progression, to teach me about the ripple of power, to teach me about that kinetic chain, which I can then apply in whatever situation that I'm in. I don't believe in trying to make these form movements work because life is too fast and too chaotic, and in a real fight, you're never going to get anything near the setups you want. Maybe every once in a while something like that will work, but for me the value is in embedding these principles in my body by studying them and trying to make them as smooth and effective and injury-free as possible. So it is helpful to know the martial application of this idealized artistic movement. It's helpful to know that you're issuing energy towards a target, like say someone's head, and you're trying to connect a couple punches there, or you're neutralizing a push and you're pushing back, or you're setting up something to punch, or you're lifting to make some space and then striking to the face, or you've got someone's arm here, shoulder, elbow, wrist, and you're going to throw them over your leg, or you're going to hit them in the ribs. It's helpful to know what the application is. But I don't think of these as useful fighting movements myself, because a fight is way too fast and chaotic. I'm planning, if I ever do get in a fight, on doing things simple, like trying not to be killed and finding a hole and filling it with a fist. But this level is about connecting your intent. Like, you're targeting energy to that. You're targeting energy to neutralize this thing and then to press again. You're dealing with kinetic energy. You're dealing with momentum coming at you and going away from you. And to study it with a specific targets in mind really is really great. It's the difference between, like, wiggling your fingers on a piano in the most relaxed way you can to get finger training versus playing songs. When you add the intent through the body to a specific result, your fingers get stronger, all the health benefits go up. So it's nice to have intent. But the bulk of the benefits come from the most basic thing. So let's just review this. I'm going to take a basic movement. I'm just going to do our version of cloud hands in place. So I've got my pistons, right? I've got my pistons pushing back and forth on top of my roots. They're not slipping around. They're firm. I'm pushing back and forth. Now, when I get past the 50-50 line, the momentum is being generated here. I'm going to add a waist turn, and then I'm going to settle. So now I'm pushing the barrel. It's lifting slightly. I'm turning it, and I'm dropping it before I go too far. If I didn't stop that rotation and drop it, it would just go like this and into some other movement, which I don't want to do, especially since it would probably hurt my knees. So I'm going to push and turn. So now when I add the snakes to this, I'm just choosing to shape them into a circle and then into a slightly straightening circle. So there's a kind of a defensive aspect here and then an offensive aspect. This may not be the way your style does cloud hands. It's just an example. Don't worry about the details. So I'm pushing, lifting the barrel, turning the barrel, setting the barrel down. Notice the arms are not leading the way, right? They're just coming along for the ride with the barrel. As the barrel turns, the momentum increases, and then that takes it away, right? So it's push, turn. So we got the root, we got the pistons, we got the barrel, and we got the snakes. Now, if I start to smooth it out, I'm just thinking now about the transitions between the two, and I'm listening to see what I can adjust, what I can relax, or what I can firm a little bit to get out of the way of that momentum, so that that chain is as smooth and even as I can make it. And it can get so smooth, and it can get so relaxed, and it's not really martial. It doesn't have any martial intent, but it can be so smooth and so soft here. So notice, I'm not lifting the barrel, turning it, and setting it down in such a kind of, crude way or basic way. I'm doing the same thing though, I'm just doing it really smoothly. Can you see the pistons? Can you see the barrel? Can you see the snakes? Right? And then if I thought I wanted to do it with a little bit more intent, I'd start to suspend my joints, connect to my breathing, so I would be exhaling most of the way here, and then inhaling as I relax and collect, and then exhaling as I go through it again. But your style may be different, that's totally cool. I'm just talking about a target. Right? And then I'm thinking a little bit more about protection here and strike there. So I might go. So you can see that when I push, the momentum goes to my waist, and then it turns out to the hand, like that. And you can imagine if there was a fist there, that could be a strike, right? So if I do it faster, can you see the barrel? Can you see there's still a barrel in there. I'm still lifting it and turning it, and I'm still setting it down. It's just really faster, and it's a lot smaller. Same is true of all these movements. If I do them with a little more intent, just doing some various movements that way. If I'm doing it with more intent, I can get caught up in my upper body. So that's where it's helpful to take whatever the movement is, find the root, find the barrel, set it down. Now lift it up, turn it, and set it down, right? Then smooth that out. So it's relaxed and soft, and there's a nice transition between the three parts, right? And then if I want to start to connect with the breath, suspend my joints a little bit so my whole body can be in on the conversation, and let the movement go a little bit more. And I'm not claiming that I'm an expert at this, or that my form is great, or that this is the best way to do it. I'm not doing this to show off. This is just what I'm working on. I'm working on the same thing myself is what I'm showing here. I just found it really helpful to really think of this basic metaphor of the root and the piston and the barrel and the snake that comes along with the barrel, and it just really helps. I do this a lot. I spend a lot of time when I do the form, just focusing in on this. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I just love to feel the barrel that I'm lifting, turning it and dropping it. It makes so much sense out of so many movements in my body. Then I just add I add the other levels as I feel it. If I feel like being more feeling oriented and trying to get out of my way a little bit more, I might just focus on smoothing it out and making the transitions more dimmer switchy. And then another time I might be focusing more on putting some real intent into those movements. But again, the basics are where the benefits are. So again, this is not about trying to make these techniques work in combat for me. This is about embedding these principles in my body so that I can respond to change, including the martial physical situation, but most of the time, obviously not. It's mostly just daily life and just dealing with things. Can I view my movements in a way where I can feel the pistons underneath me, I can feel the barrel, I can decide when to rotate the barrel, and my arms can do their thing off of that. My snakes. So I've been teaching for since 1985, so that's like 35 years of teaching, and in the last 20 I've taught outdoors all year long, 20 hours a week or so, individually, private lessons, and some group sessions, and I'm 63 years old, no knee problems, my legs are strong, I'm probably in the best shape I've ever been in my life. And so this method certainly works for me. So, I'm sharing it because it's been helpful. When I was 59 or so, I started to train with a teacher in non-classical Kung Fu, which is Jesse Glover's art. He was Bruce Lee's first student in Seattle. And I had to learn to hit pads much, much harder than hitting air. And you have a real sweet spot that tells you right away whether you have hit it or not. I was easily the oldest person in there, and I held up pretty good, and I'm still practicing to this day, just mostly the basics of that art. I'm not anywhere near an expert in it. But again, you look at your punching, it's weight shift back and forth. It's just a little smaller like that, and then here's the barrel in this case is not rotating yet. I'm just working on connecting it to the hinge of the snake here, right? And then add the rotation. Add the rotation, and when you add it, if you add it too late, it's not going to increase the power enough. If you put the rotation in too early, it's going to decrease the power too. There's a sweet spot where right there when you rotate, you get the maximum pop. So I was able to pick up that art and blend into a class pretty easily, and it's still a practice that I really, really enjoy. When I was a kid, I was terrible at basketball. I didn't even want the ball in recess. I got good at passing because I just wanted to get rid of it. I was so awful. I could never figure it out. I doubt if I ever even made a basket. About a few years ago, one of my students told me, "Hey, this is what you're showing me is really similar to some of the stuff we do in basketball." And I said, "Really?" And he was an older guy, but he had played basketball. And he said, I go, "Do you still play?" He goes, "No, I just go down to the Y every once in a while and shoot baskets." And I said, "Can I go with you and try that?" And he said, "Sure." So he just showed me how to do it. He showed me how to hold the ball. And the key thing was that I had never gotten before was that your legs provide the power. The legs provide the power, and then the arm refines that and releases the ball. And so I started doing that, and I had a great time. We probably stayed there for an hour, and I probably shot a dozen 3-pointers over the course of the hour. I missed many, many shots, but for someone like me with no natural coordination or skill at this sport, all this is learned behavior. Everything I can do with my body pretty much is software installed by me through practice. I did not start out anything like what you would call coordinated, and but for me to throw a ball from the shoot a ball from the 3-point line and have it go in the basket, especially when it's nothing but net. I was amazed, and I attribute it to kinetic chains that I have developed in my body and being familiar with these things. Because again, the legs are the pistons. The barrel in this case just went straight up, and the arc was more this way than this way, and I just translated that into from Tai Chi type things to putting the ball in the hoop, and I was able to do it. I was in a bar one time sitting on a stool, and a guy came spinning around and tripped and was about to go right down, probably going to break his wrist at the very least. There was tables and feet and edges, stuff all over there too. It could have been awful. And as soon as I saw him falling, I slipped out of my chair thinking, I'll just steady this guy. But by the time I got to within a step or so of him, I realized he was really going down, and I just zoomed my core in and just grabbed hold of him. I just pressed him against my body, and I just lifted him up and set him on his way. Things like that, like that's not a form I studied. I never studied the form of shooting a basket or how to punch a pad. Or especially a moving pad, and all those things, without the previous training, I was able to learn fairly quickly and to enjoy because of approaching Tai Chi the way that I do, not as a bunch of things to memorize and think of actually doing in the world, but to use the forms as almost like a maze. Can I get to the beginning, from the beginning to the end of this thing, and get out of its way and be efficient, be effective, and not hurt myself? So I invite you to give it a try. I know this is kind of a long rambling video, but stuff I think about and have thought about quite a bit. Find your root, find the piston action, notice the barrel, find the lift, turn, and settle. It's in everything. It's in tennis serves. It's in all kinds of stuff. Golf, you name it. It's all over the place in all kinds of daily life movements. Find the pistons, or I'll find your root. Find the pistons, find the barrel, and then if ever, does the barrel rotate, and then the arms come after that. Everything initiates from below. The arm doesn't do anything by itself. The arm does what the waist tells it to do, and the waist is connected through the hips to the legs to the feet. So there's a sequence that's going through the body, but this doesn't initiate. The initiation comes from below. In the basics, and we're talking basics here. There are probably other ways to move. I'm just talking about real basic bonehead stuff here that's really helped me, and it might help you too. So I think I've covered most of the things that I wanted to share. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it if you've gotten this far. It's kind of a miracle, so thank you. And let me know what you think of this stuff. I find this stuff really fascinating, as long as it's not mystical chi stuff. I'm not as interested in that. I'm interested in I'm interested in more practical stuff. So if you can be more amenable to listening than if you're talking about meridians and acupuncture points and stuff. It's just not my thing. So anyway, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. If you like this kind of thing, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do this, tons of music videos, occasional stabs at humor, a little bit of nature stuff now and then. And thanks, I appreciate it.